Today, we are going to unwrap the truly surprising story behind Christmas. I mean, we're talking about everything from pagan rituals to some pretty clever Victorian inventions. The holiday you think you know has a history that is way more complex and, frankly, more fascinating than you probably imagine. So, let's dive right in.
You know, when I say the word Christmas, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's pretty instant. You've got the big guy in the red suit, right?
Then, there are the piles of brightly wrapped gifts, which, let's be honest, have become a huge part of the whole holiday experience.
And of course, you can't forget the iconic decorated tree all lit up in the living room. All of these things, the sights, the sounds, they feel like they've been around forever. They feel ancient. But here's the thing. So much of what we call Christmas today is actually this wild mix of different histories. Some of it's religious, yeah, but a lot of it is secular, and some of it is shockingly modern. The real story? Oh, it's way more interesting than you'd think.
So first up, let's just pull apart the holiday that we see all around us. We're going to peel back the layers on some of our most beloved traditions, and I think you're going to be surprised to find out that many of them are a lot younger than they seem.
Okay, let's start with the main man himself, Santa Claus. Believe it or not, he started out as Saint Nicholas, a real Christian bishop whose feast day is way earlier, on December 6th. He was known for giving out little gifts, like candy. But the jolly, round, North Pole-dwelling guy we know and love today, he was almost completely invented by that famous 19th century poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." It literally transformed him from a little-known saint into a global gift-giving superstar.
And it's not just Santa. It's actually kind of mind-blowing how many of our timeless traditions are pretty new. I mean, sure, decorated trees go back to the 1600s. But things like the Advent wreath, Christmas cards, even Advent calendars, those are all 19th century inventions. They're basically Victorian customs, not some ancient rites from centuries ago.
All right, now for maybe the biggest question of them all. Why December 25th? If you look in the New Testament, there are zero clues about when Jesus was actually born. So, where did we get that date?
Well, historians have two main theories, and they're pretty different. The first one is called the history of religions theory. The idea here is that the early church was really smart and strategically placed Christmas on the same day as a huge Roman pagan festival for the birth of the unconquered son, to make it easier for people to convert. But the big counterargument is that early Christians really tried to be separate from paganism. Then you have the calculation theory. This one suggests that some early Christian thinkers just did the math. They figured Jesus was conceived on March 25th, and they just counted 9 months forward. The only catch? That's based on some theological logic, not any actual historical records.
So what this really tells us is that the date wasn't even set in stone until a couple of centuries after the fact. The very first time we see it identified is in the year 221. And the debate over why that date was chosen? Yeah, that's still going on among scholars today.
Okay, so we've talked about traditions, we've talked about the date, but now let's get to what's underneath all those layers of culture and history. Let's talk about the original story, the theological core that gives the holiday its name, Christ's Mass.
For Christians, this one line from the Gospel of Matthew really gets to the heart of everything. Christmas isn't just about celebrating a birthday, it's about this incredible idea of Emmanuel, which literally means God with us, the belief that the divine actually entered into human history. This concept is known as the Incarnation, and it's really the central paradox of the whole story, this idea of all-powerful divine love being expressed through the ultimate form of vulnerability, a tiny, helpless baby. It's seen as this profound act of love for all of humanity.
And the story itself, the one from the Bible, unfolds in a few key moments. It all kicks off with the Annunciation, when an angel tells Mary she's going to have a baby. Then you have the Nativity, the birth in Bethlehem. And what's really interesting is that the news is announced first not to powerful kings, but to shepherds out in a field. And finally, the Magi, the wise men, follow a star to bring gifts, which kind of symbolizes the message spreading out to the rest of the world.
So from these theological roots, Christmas just exploded across the globe. And as it spread, it was adopted, adapted, and totally transformed by all kinds of different cultures along the way.
This is where it gets really fun, because the holiday's ability to adapt is just incredible. In Mexico, you have the beautiful Las Posadas processions. In Brazil, it's a massive summer festival with fireworks on the beach. In parts of India, people decorate mango or bamboo trees instead of firs. And get this, in Australia, you might just see Santa show up in a pair of swimming trunks.
And this really shows you the whole picture of Christmas today. In so many places, like Japan, for example, it's a completely secular holiday. People just love the festive vibe. In other countries, it's a mix of culture and faith, or maybe a religious holiday for a minority group. It just goes to show you how flexible the very idea of Christmas has become.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, you realize Christmas isn't just one thing. It's this incredibly rich, sometimes contradictory, tapestry. It's woven together from threads of Christian faith, these faint echoes of Roman festivals, those Victorian inventions, and yeah, a pretty heavy dose of modern culture and commerce.
So after peeling back 2,000 years of history, tradition, and transformation, it all comes down to a simple question. What does this holiday actually mean to you? What is it that makes it feel like Christmas in your life? Thanks so much for joining me on this journey.